Hello. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Seeing that everywhere today. 22222. Kind of a crazy day. I'm just working on pulling up my phone here in case anyone joins live. I can check in and be sure to say hello to you and answer any questions you might have or comments that you might feel like sharing. I want to apologize for kind of kicking this off late. My oldest has some sort of head cold developing or something's going on. I don't know. And he's got just like really bad congestion. And when that happens, he has a really hard time sleeping, as we all do. But he has sensory issues, and so it's really amplified for him. So I've been having to go in there and soothe him a few times. I'm hoping that he's settled enough to be able to engage with you in this space tonight and be able to continue our special series that we've been doing over the last 2 weeks, building emotional resiliency. And we've been talking about the 6 losses of postpartum that can happen in our experiences post-birth. And really, the goal of this was to normalize these experiences and for us to try to understand that these can happen, that it's very normal, but that they don't have to be what rules our postpartum experience. And we don't have to settle in this place of loss for longer than we feel that we need to. And we've talked about the importance of mourning these losses and holding that space for those, and instead of trying to, push them all down and not really feel the way we need to feel about these experiences that we can have in postpartum. But I also really wanted to focus on that resiliency piece and finding that strength within ourselves to really use this time as a time of connection and transformation and a time of becoming our new versions of ourselves that are emerging in parenthood, no matter how many times we've walked this path before. For those of you who are new here, my name is Jessie Sletton, and I am a postpartum empowerment coach, and I help birth givers exchange surviving for thriving through holistic recovery and support plans that are focused on healing, nourishing, and bonding throughout the perinatal time frame. So I work with folks who are pregnant and expecting, and I also work with folks who are already in the postpartum time frame. And I really just meet my clients where they are, and we work together on figuring out ways to support you through your postpartum time frame and the struggles that you might be facing during that really, rapidly changing, overwhelming phase when we're trying to care for a newborn. We're trying to figure out where we fit into our family dynamics with our partner if we're coupled. All these things are changing so rapidly. And really being able to center our own experiences and our own well-being in this journey can make all the difference for how we are showing up for our families. And that's really what I do, and it's my passion and my joy. So if that's something that you are looking for support in, please feel free to schedule some time with me in the link that I provided in the description. And we can sit down and chat about what you're struggling with, how we can work together to make your goals become a reality, and that you feel empowered and strong and resilient during the postpartum time frame and not feeling like you're stuck in survival mode. But tonight we are rounding out our series here. We're on day 5, loss 5, I guess you could say, and we're going to be discussing the loss of time. So this one's a really big one, and I feel like this is so relevant in parenthood in general. It's really hard to have a grasp on time, because either we feel like a certain season in our parenthood is just never ending, and it can feel like we will never see the end of some of this kind of more repetitive or difficult times in our parenthood. And then there's other moments even within the same season that we're like, "Oh my gosh, this time is flying by." And it just seems like we can't hold on to it tight enough, right? And so there's really these extreme polar feelings of time that we experience as parents. And they can be unsettling for us sometimes, especially in the newborn phase where we are feeling that sense of, oh my gosh, all I'm doing is feeding the baby, soothing the baby, changing the baby, trying to get baby to sleep, rinse and repeat over and over again, right? And so we just feel like we're on this loop over and over and over again, almost like Groundhog Day. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie, but that's kind of how I had felt in the newborn stage, especially with my first, when I had no real sense of doing this before, right? I was a brand new parent. The second time around, at least I knew that phase wouldn't last forever, right? I had been through it before, and I knew that there was an end coming, right? But when you're a new parent and it's your first time going through a postpartum experience, it feels like this is never going to end, right? And then you have the opposite side where you feel sad because things are going so fast. There's the saying, what's the saying? It's the days are long, but the years are short, right? It's so cliche, and we hear that all the time, but it's so true because the days that we're in, it just seems like we're on this Groundhog Day experience, right? And things are just repeating over and over again, and we just have, it doesn't matter if it's 3 in the morning or 3 in the afternoon. It doesn't, it won't matter to us in what we are doing in these repetitive processes that we're in. But then it seems like those stages go by so fast once you're out of them at the same time. So, what can we do to really help fortify ourselves during this time, to really be able to ground ourselves, to hold on to time in a way that's meaningful for us and in a way that helps us, feel secure in where we are in that phase that we are in. And so some of the things that I like to tell my clients to think about and to brainstorm about is really what's important to you when it comes to time. Are you a person who really craves schedules and routines and rituals? Is that something that helps you stay grounded? How are you going to process and be able to work through potentially not being able to have that routine and structure that you were maybe used to before? Where can you pivot to be able to find some wiggle room, or, some, what's the word I'm looking for? Really be able to adjust what works for you while still maintaining maybe that sense of control. We're really going to dive into this loss of control tomorrow on our last day. But like I mentioned before, in all the days leading up to this, these are all so connected, right? These different feelings of losses and the way that they kind of intertwine and intersect. But loss of time and loss of control are very connected. And so is really just the loss of community too, because sometimes some of our routines that were built in to visiting with our community and connecting to the outside world can be skewed or interrupted, with this loss of time, this sense of feeling that we're no longer tied to that same time tables as everybody else around us. So really thinking about that in a really intentional way. What does time really mean to me? How can I create space for myself to be able to feel like I can hold on to my sense of time in a way that makes me feel grounded? And even if you can't stick to a specific schedule, newborn babies do not work on schedules. We all know this, right? And if you don't know this, you will come to find that this is true, right? And knowing this ahead of time can be very helpful in pregnancy, especially if you are a routine person who craves that. So, what are areas and little rituals you can build into your day for yourself that would help you feel that same sense of groundedness in your day? Whether that be you always start out your morning with a warm cup of tea. It doesn't matter maybe what time that ends up happening for you, but at least you are starting your morning out with a cup of tea that you can sit and enjoy. Or, does that mean that you have a short but meaningful bedtime ritual for yourself before you lay down to sleep? What does that look like for you? And how would that make you feel to be able to have something to fall back on? A few other things that I like to suggest as far as being able to hold on to this sense of time is really just, reminding yourself that it's so hard, but it is true that it is temporary, right? We go through these things and they can be difficult in the moment, but having a little mantra that maybe you can tell yourself, this too shall pass, this phase is temporary, this I am not alone. Having those sources to kind of fall back on for yourself, to encourage yourself in those moments, and being able to speak to somebody when you are struggling with that is really, really important as well. So I'm gonna pull up my notes real quick here. I've been doing this just kind of on the fly because I was so frazzled from having to start late with my kiddo having such a hard time tonight, poor guy. Okay, let me just make sure I didn't skip over any of those things that I really wanted to touch on. Yeah, so I really just think, oh, this is a good one too. Really kind of understanding yourself as far as where do you feel like you can function, at your highest capacity? Are you more of a morning person or more of a night person? How could that help or hinder you in the newborn phase? How can you work with your partner on how that best might work for you? Is there a potential for, working on a shift or kind of a schedule between the two of you to be able to allow that support and structured time? So, those are just a couple of the things that I work with my clients on, really intentionally thinking about, creating plans around, and really trying to implement in the postpartum time frame, and really be open to, trying to make adjustments where you can. And when you're struggling, really working on those grounding techniques that can help you feel like you have a little bit more of that sense of control in a time where so little control is really available to us. And we're going to talk a lot more about that tomorrow in this last day of our emotional resiliency and postpartum, the 6 losses series, in this loss of control that can happen in the postpartum time frame, and why that's so important, and how we can build in some ways that we can take back control in certain aspects so that we can feel like we have a little bit more of our footing underneath us, and where we can kind of steer ourselves in the direction we wish to go instead of just being at the whim of the postpartum time frame, right? And the postpartum experience. So I'm really excited to be back here tomorrow night to discuss that. We'll do a little bit of a recap of all 6 of the losses tomorrow as well. And then I wanted to build in a little bit of time for a questions and answers time. So you can bring anything that might be on your mind when it comes to these 6 losses, any stories or experiences you want to share, to be able to have that witnessed and held in a safe place. This would be a great chance for you to do that. And then we'll dive into a little bit more about what it would look like working together in my one-on-one coaching container, and how that supportive structure can really be the most impactful when it comes to helping you prepare, plan, and navigate the postpartum time frame and all that can encompass, when we are moving through such a hugely transformative time in our life. So be back here tomorrow night at 8 p.m., same time, Mountain Standard. My husband will be home tomorrow, so I will have a lot more help with the kiddos. So if we still have some sickies on my hands, I will have some more support to be able to show up on time with you all here. But that is parent life, mom life at its finest. So there you go. None of us are immune to it. I hope you guys have a great evening, and I will see you back here tomorrow night for our last day of the Building Resiliency and Postpartum, the 6 Losses series. So I will see you then.